بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين في أمور الدنيا والدين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خير خلق الله أجمعين أرسله الله رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وسلم تسليما كثيرا ثم أما بعد. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may His peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the best of mankind, and whom He sent as a mercy to the world. May His peace and blessings be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to all His companions, and to all those who will follow the straight path. Brothers and sisters, as we continue with the lessons from the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, last lesson we discussed about the second pledge in Aqaba, or the Bay'atul Aqaba Thaniya, and today, inshallah, we will talk about the fruit of that agreement, or of that pledge that took place for the second time in two consecutive years, from the people of Yathrib giving their pledge and support to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and for the dissemination and the spread of the faith or religion of Islam. So today, inshallah, we will talk about the establishment of a small Muslim state in a vast desert surging with disbelief and ignorance, and that is when the time of Hijrah started. And it is the most serious gain in terms of Islam, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave his leave for the Muslims to migrate to Medina, the nascent Muslim state. Now, migration to Medina in terms of personal interest was no more than material waste and sacrifice of wealth, all in return for personal safety only. So even here, those who migrated could not expect fully security, as they were still liable to be robbed or even killed, either at the beginning or end of their departure. So the future was unclear and pregnant with various unpredictable sorts of sorrows and crises and griefs and trials. So bearing all this in mind, the Muslims began to migrate. The Muslims began to migrate little by little, while the mushrikun spared no effort in hindering and debarring them. So knowing beforehand that such a move implied unimaginable threats and unthinkable destructive dangers to the society of the pagans. Now, we're going to mention some of the stories that took place or happened in the course of the migration. And the first story we're going to mention is the story of the migration of Abu Salama and his family. And that historians say that it took place or happened a year before the great Aqaba pledge, or the second pledge in Aqaba. So, and then when he had made up his mind to leave Mecca and migrate to Yathrib, or what is known now or in our time as Medina al-Munawwara, his in-laws, the relatives and family of his wife Salama, is in desperate attempt to raise obstacles, and detained his wife and snatched his son, and even dislocated the hand of their son. Now Salama, on the other hand, after the departure of their husband and the loss of her son, spent a year by herself weeping and lamenting. Now, only until when a relative of hers eventually had pity on her and exhorted the others to release her son and let her join with her husband in Yathrib. So she then sent out on a journey of 500 kilometers approximately. That is the distance between Mecca and Medina, with no help whatsoever. And we all know that travel in those days is really not easy, as it was described in a hadith, that it is full of hardship. It is full of hardship. So, but in her way, or in her way to Medina, there is this spot called Tan'im, which is outside of Mecca. It's outskirts of Mecca at that time, but in this time, it is now included as part of Makkah al-Mukarramah. So there, Uthman bin Talha came across her and offered her help. Okay, he offered her to give her a ride to Medina. So she, along with her son, joined Abu Salama in the village of Quba, a suburb of Medina. And that is where Abu Talha left her and went back to Medina, and told her that Abu Salama is staying in this part of Medina, so go and join him. So anyone who will go through the story of Salama will see and find, the trials and the tests that they took and that they had, and the sacrifices they had to make only to fulfill the migration, to live in the land where they will be free to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all at the expense of what we have just mentioned in the story. But nevertheless, success was given to them, and they lived their life and started to live their life along with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who followed them later on. Now, another instance of atrocities of the polytheist Meccans, or the pagans of Mecca, as regards migration, is the story of Suhaib al-Rumi. Now, this man expressed his wish to migrate, and of course, this was a source of indignation to the disbelievers. So they began to insult him, claiming that he had nothing when he came to Mecca, and he was a worthless tramp. But their town was gracious enough, and thanks to them, he managed to make a lot of money and become wealthy. So they are they're saying to him that you came empty-handed, and do you think that we'll just leave you? We will just leave you like that? Okay, migrating to Yathrib, to Medina, taking all our money with you. So they gave orders that he would not live. Now, seeing this, Abu Suhaib al-Rumi, thought of something that, maybe none of us would think about, and that is leaving all what he have, so that the pagans would only allow him to travel, so that the polytheists or the mushrikeen would allow him to travel. So what he did is that he offered them, all what he had, to give away all his wealth to the mushrikeen or to the pagans, so that they would just to allow him to leave. And the mushrikeen eventually agreed, to release him on that condition. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he heard the story, or what Suhaib did, just to fulfill the migration, the Prophet ﷺ commenting on it, saying, Rabiha Suhaib, which means Suhaib is the winner after all. But for the believers, they thought that they had won with Suhaib al-Rumi, but the Prophet ﷺ and the believers never or didn't see it that way, as for them, faith comes first. Now, there was also the story of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu and Iyash ibn Abi Rabi'a and Hisham ibn al-As. Okay, now, they all agreed to meet at a certain place one morning in order to leave Mecca. Now, we all know Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu is a man of honor and a man of courage. Many from Mecca feared him. Nevertheless, he didn't go by himself. He didn't go by himself knowing the danger, okay, or what might the mushrikun would do to him in the course of his migration. So he took with him other people, okay, and then shortly afterwards, when they reached Quba, which is at that time still outside of Medina, Abu Jahl and his brother Al-Harith came to Medina, which happens to be the brother of Iyash. So they see their brother Iyash, and then they cunningly try to touch the most sensitive area in a man, and that is, of course, his relation to his mother. So they addressed him, claiming that his mother had sworn that she would never comb her hair nor shade herself of the sun unless she had seen him. Now, for the Arabs, this is a very serious matter, as one could die because of that. Okay, so Iyash took pity on his mother, but Umar was intelligent enough to understand that what they're trying to do is just they wanted him to entice, okay, Iyash away from her hair if lice pestered her. Okay, so Umar bin Khattab, he says that your mother would cover her if lice pestered her, and would shade herself off if the sun of Makkah got hot for her. So this word notwithstanding, Iyash was determined, but still Iyash was determined to go to and see his mother. So Umar radiallahu anhu gave him his manageable camel, okay, advising him to stick to the camel and stick to its backs, because it would provide rescue for him if he perceived anything suspicious on their part, from the part of Abu Jahl and this other brother. So the party of three then started to go and set forth towards Mecca, and as soon as they covered part of the distance, okay, Abu Jahl complained about this camel and requested the Iyash if he would allow him to ride behind his camel. So that is when the camel knelt down to the level of the ground. Okay, that is when they took advantage of Iyash, and they fell upon him and tied him. So they rode him into Mecca in that situation, shouting at the people to follow their example with no respect to fools. So that's what they told the Mecca, they're giving warning. They're giving warning the believers that who would ever attempt going to Yathrib and migrate there, who might have the same result. So these are just three self-explanatory models of how the pagans reacted towards anyone intending to migrate. Nevertheless, the believers still managed to escape in successive groups, and so rapidly that within only 2 months, after the second pledge, or the Bay'atul Aqaba al-Thaniya, okay, it entered and requires Makkah with a certain, almost all of the followers of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had migrated to their new abode, except Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Ali bin Abi Talib, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So and there are also some of those who helped us, noble souls who had detained in confinement or were unable to escape. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, together with Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Ali, had made all the necessary preparations for migration, but was waiting for just waiting for leave or permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, it is noteworthy that most of the Muslims who had migrated to Ethiopia or Abyssinia came back to Medina, so to join the rest of the Muslims there. So the situation was no doubt critical for Mecca, but the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Mecca, because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was still there and was not and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu was, however, urging the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to depart from that town. So he was eagerly waiting for an opportunity to accompany the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his migration. Now on this eventful but the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that the time had not come yet. So he's still waiting for the revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allowing him to start doing the migration. So, and while they are waiting for the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu had made all the preparations for the journey. He had purchased 2 swift camels and had fed them properly for 4 months. So that's the span of waiting, so that they could successfully stand and ordeals of the long desert journey. And inshallah, in the next lesson, we will talk about the migration of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And until then, wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.